In this video, we're going to go over how to factor a whole bunch of problems of the form where we've got a trinomial and the leading term, that leading coefficient, is more than one. In a previous video, I went over why that works in painstaking detail. It was a long video, so if you haven't watched that, it is worth watching it. It's not going to win an Oscar, but it's worth watching. So now we're going to accelerate it a little bit. If you remember, to do this, we do organize, guess, and check. We cannot use the technique of what multiplies to 5 that adds to 11 when we have a leading coefficient that isn't 1. So that's out of the picture. So we're going to start out with our two parentheses, and of course have your eraser handy. We'll have 2x and x. And I'm going to go through a lengthier process with A than I will with B, C, and D. So what I first notice is I need the factors of A. Remember, this is A, this is B, and this is C. So the factors of A, and I need the factors of C. So the factors of A, there's only one way to get 2x squared. That's good news. 2x and x. C, there's actually only one way to get 5. 1 and 5. So that's all that I have to check. So first what I do is I start out with my 2x and x as I wrote there, because 2x times x gives us 2x squared. Then I'm going to we'll do 1 here and 5 here. All I have to do, remember, is check the outer and the inner, and that's because I already have set that my last is going to be 5, and then my first will be 2x squared. Those factors were chosen so that we got the A and the B term, or the A and the C terms correct. We're just checking for the B term, which is constructed out of the outer and the inner. So the outer is 2x times 1 and 5x. Now we can only add or subtract those, which will not get us 11. 2 plus 5 is 7, 5 minus 2 is 3, that doesn't give us 11. What does that mean? That means that the order is incorrect, and that if we have nice factors here, then we're going to have to switch the 5 and the 1. Let's see if this works, putting a 1 here and a 5 there. So now we have 5 times 2, that's the outer, is 10x, and 1 times x, that's 1x. Ooh, if we add 10x and x together, if they're both positive, we'll get 11x. So, I don't know why there's already a plus sign there. So I would need to add 2x and 5. That would need to be a positive 5 to get positive 10x. And this would need to be a positive as well to get a positive 1x. And we're done. You can check by foiling, but again, we've kind of already been doing the check as we work along. So I'm going to encourage you, in the beginning, check by foiling. All right, I'm not going to do that on each of these. You know how to foil by now. And if you don't, and you're having trouble foiling, please go back and fix that first before doing any of this video. That's very important. Watch my earlier foiling videos. Okay, let's check this one out. So we're going to go a little quicker here. So we got two parentheses. Right away, we notice that in terms of A and C, A, the factors could only be 5x and x. It's the only way to get 5x squared. C, the factors, well, there's a bunch of them. We've got 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, and then they repeat, 6 and 4, and so on and so forth. So how do I accelerate this process? I notice that 14 is my middle term. I also know that 5x and x my only way, so I'm going to go ahead and put those in there. Now, since 14 is the middle term, I'm thinking that 24 and possibly 12 are going to be too big to multiply by, especially with that 5 in there. I could be wrong, but that's my intuition, my first thought. So I'm going to just go with 3 and 8 and 4 and 6 and see what happens from there. So we'll start with 3 and 8, and again, we're checking outer and inner. Just keep those bars there. So 8 times 5 is 40, and 3x. That's not going to give us 14, right? 40x and 3x? So we switch them up. So we do 8 and 3. That's 15 and 8. 3 times 5 and 8 times x. 15 and 8. That's not going to subtract to give us 14, nor add to give us 14. So no way do we get 14 from that. So 3 and 8, that's out. Let's try 4 and 6. I'll put 4 here and 6 here. 6 times 5 is 30. I'll start writing them out. 4 times x is 4. If we add or subtract those, we will get 34 or 26, so let's switch them up. So we'll do 6 first and then 4. And by the way, if you just happen to see it, which is what's going to end up eventually happening, you're just going to see the factors by doing guess and check enough. 5 times 4 is 20x. 6 times x is 6x. Oh, We want positive 14. Well, if we subtract 6x, and how do we get a negative 6x is if we do minus 6 times x and do plus 4 times 5, we'll get the combo we need, and they multiply to negative 24. It's beautiful. All right, let's keep rolling. On to the next one. So we've got factors of a and c we're going to factor out. So again, I'll start out parentheses, parentheses, a, c, always for cookies, right? Maybe, maybe not. 2m and 2m, m and 4m. So we have two combinations for A. And then for C, we really only have two combos, 1 and 9, 3 and 3. So not too many combinations. Now personally, I usually start with 2 and 2. You could certainly start with 4 and 1. It's just something that I do. So it does not matter which one you start with. I'm going to start with 2 and 2. So 2m and 2m. So I'll try 1 and 9. So if I put 1 and 9 here, and now again, I'm going to test outer and inner. 9 times 2 is 18m. 1 times 2m, the inner part, that's going to be 2m. That does not subtract to give us 12, nor add to give us 12. You don't have to switch the order, because 1 going here and 9 going there would be the same, because you'd still be multiplying by 2's. That's why I start with the same factor, if that's possible. Just speeds things up a little bit. So 1 and 9 are out for the 2. We'll try 3 and 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 2, also 6. Remember, we're targeting that 12m right there. That's what we want. If they were only both negative, then we would get negative 12m, negative 6 minus 6. So the 3's would both have to be negative, and you get negative 6m and negative 6m, negative 12m. Oh, we're right. It's awesome. You'll get quicker and quicker with it, I promise. Now this last one here, I'm going to erase the work here. It's a little more highlighted. We actually have a difference of 2 squares. It's actually pretty important you notice that, because it speeds things up. So I included this one in here just to show you how we can speed it up a bit. So we have here A and C, but our B term is equal to 0, right? This technically, there's a little 0x right in there. So we have 2x and 2x give us 4x squared, as does 1x and 4x. And you can just write x, you don't need 1x. All right, so now from here, the C values, well, there's only 1 and 49 and 7 and 7. So I'm going to start out again like I did in the last problem with 2x and 2x. But because it's a difference of 2 squares, I know that my answer is going to be 7 and 7. Because the only way I could get 0 for B is if I have the 2 same numbers here and 2 same numbers here. Why is that? Because if I put a negative here and a positive there, when I multiply, I'll get the same positive number, 14x, and the same negative number, negative 14x, and they'll cancel, leaving us with 4x squared minus 49 and no middle number. And if you FOIL it out to C, you'll know exactly that this is the answer. All right, in the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a little bit quicker to show you that we can even be faster with it, show you how we can be a little more mental with it. This was done out step by step. I'll show you eventually where I'd like you to get to with step-by-step work and practice first always.